many of you have heard about Germany's quite spectacular transition to renewable energy. It's incomplete, it's imperfect. Nonetheless, it's worth celebrating that in a decade and a half, they've gone from having 6% of their electricity system come from renewable energy to having 25%. That's a very speedy transition. One of the things that we don't hear is that this has only happened because in hundreds of cities and towns, both small and large, citizens have voted to take back control over their electricity grids. And this is sometimes called remunicipalization. Essentially, it's reversing the privatizations that took place, many of them in the 1990s, when it was so fashionable for governments to sell off their public assets. And this is starting to happen in North America. Boulder has had a couple of successful referendums to take back control over their electricity grid as well. So listening to this, it might be tempting to think that all we need to do is return to a kind of pre-1980s, pre-Thatcher, pre-Reagan Keynesian model, mixed economy, less privatized, more regulated form of capitalism. And I think if it was 1990 or 1995, we might be able to respond to the crisis in that way. But here's the thing. There is what Michael Mann describes, the famed climate scientist at Penn State University, a procrastination penalty when it comes to carbon emissions, which means that if you allow emissions to increase by 61% instead of reducing them, you then need to cut them so rapidly and so deeply that it starts to present a fundamental challenge to the very core of our economic system. And this is why the subtitle of the book is Capitalism versus the Climate, because it challenges the fundamental logic of a growth-based economic system. What scientists at the Tyndall Center in Manchester tell us is that if we want to stay within our global carbon budget and we want to follow any kind of equity-based principle, countries like the United States, countries in the global north, need to be cutting our emissions by 8 to 10% a year. That cannot be done within a system based on pursuing continual economic growth. That doesn't mean that there will be years when the economy might grow, but it will be a very different kind of economy than the one we have right now. It has to be a strategic economy, a deliberate economy, an economy where we decide which parts are going to grow and which parts are going to contract.